Welcome back, everyone, to another Coach Blakers podcast. It's been ages since I've made a Coach Blakers podcast, but what's up? What it do, baby boo? Okay, so today's topic is going to be: are there such thing as cursed accounts? Now, I did make a video on this in the past, not really, but it was more of like, do you climb faster on another account? But I didn't really touch the topic of can accounts be cursed, and what I mean by that, can accounts actually just be really, really hard to climb sometimes? Because Riot just says, hey, you're not going to climb ever, right? And so I want to visit that topic because there are some accounts, I've climbed a lot of accounts in all the roles. And there are some accounts that I do it a lot easier on. Also, there's some players that I coach that has an easier time climbing than other players and has, like, it seems like they have worse luck than other players. So I want to visit that topic. But, you know, I always start my podcast with a quote. And the quote is, even when bad things happen, you have to... Even when bad things happen, there's no, like, commas, so it's hard to read this. And it's written weird, so work with me. Even when bad things happen, you have to try to use those bad things in a positive manner and really just take the positivity out of it. So, what do I mean by that? Let me read it one more time, and I actually misread it that time, too. I'm sorry. Even when bad things happen, you have to try to... It's been some time. Work with me. How you guys doing? You got snacks? Okay, cool. This is a podcast. No edits. I love it. Even when bad things happen, you have to try to use those bad things in a positive manner and really just take the positive out of it. What does that mean? Pretty much when bad things happen to you in life, it happens. But do your best to take the positive out of it. Now, how can we apply this to League of Legends? Well, I'm glad you asked. Sometimes, and I'm speaking from my own personal experience here, when I've climbed accounts that are just very, very hard to win on, I still think about why I lost. Now, there are times where, like I said, games feel incredibly hard to look like, and this is on Smurfs, okay? Playing one of my main champions. It's incredibly hard. Like, it's incredibly hard to win. Whether players are playing champs they don't know, players are choosing to just straight up quit, players are just trolling. Like, there's some accounts where it's just that bad, and I'm talking over like spans of games. So it's not like you're one negative game here and another negative there. It's like 3 of those in a row, and then you win. And some of you, the guys that like actually monitor my climb on some of these accounts, you'll notice I'll lose like 10 games in a row, and you're like, bro, what? I'm telling you, it's just that unlucky. Whereas other accounts, I'm like breaching certain ranks like it's nothing. So that's why I wanted to talk about that. But picking the positive out of it, like still understanding that you lost the game and trying to improve on that. And so during my process, a lot of times this will happen, especially on my main account. It will become incredibly hard to win. And so what I typically do is go back to my roots, right? I watch guides, I go back to my roots, and I really try to understand what am I doing? What did I do before? Why are my games just randomly harder? And try to go from there. Of course, there are trolls and there are, things that make my game hard. People are inting and whatever. But at its root, if I was really good, I'd carry it. And that's just the thing that I hold on to help me understand that it's still my fault in a way. Just thinking about if there's a challenging player on my account, they would have won that. Like that. And so that type of thought process helps me get through the pain of like, damn, this is hard. And so when I go back to my roots, what I typically do is, like I said, I look at those guides. I take a look at my past. Speaking of which, I didn't even say this, but if you guys are interested in coaching, CoachBlaker.com is where you want to go. Also, I'm doing a free trial coaching thing. It's kind of like a sample coaching to see if you'd benefit from it. Those of you that like truly do want to get better and truly want to climb, I definitely recommend you try that out. If you're on the fence and you're like, I don't really know if coaching's for me, I tried it before, it didn't work, or I've never tried it and I don't know if I want to try it. Whatever your reason may be for you being on the fence, I recommend that you do it just to try it, just to get it out and just see what it's like in your life, right? I mean, there's no harm, no foul there. If you're someone who's like, I just want to do it for, excuse my French, but shits and giggles, I wouldn't recommend you doing that. I wouldn't recommend you doing that because, you know, you're not only wasting my time, but you're wasting your time as well. And our time both is more valuable than that. So if you really think like, you know, coaching might benefit you and you might want to do it in the future, you just never were sure how it would work. You never were sure how you'd respond to it, how you know, you'd learn from it. Definitely recommend you try it out. See if it's something for you. And CoachBooker.com has all the information on it. So I definitely recommend that for those of you that are really, truly looking to climb and looking to just get it, just see how it is. Back to what I was saying. So I would go back to my roots and really look at these videos. Really just kind of understand what was I doing before? What was I doing before where I could just straight up win? And you think about it, sometimes you do have hot streaks. There's sometimes, and I always say this because people get really depressed when they start losing. I always say that just because you're winning doesn't mean you're playing better. Just because you're losing doesn't mean you're playing worse. Just because you're winning doesn't mean you deserve to climb. Just because you're playing worse doesn't mean you deserve to demote. Just because you got better doesn't mean you deserve to climb. Just because you got better doesn't mean, or just because you feel like you got worse doesn't mean you actually did. Pretty much to sum all that up, just because you win games doesn't mean you actually put in the work to win those games. Just because you're on a hot streak doesn't mean you're actually just improving and getting better. And I think that's a key aspect to understanding what's going on. Because you might misinterpret that, your win streaks of 5 or 10 or whatever. You might misinterpret that of like actually being good. And sometimes your teams could just be really good. Or maybe, like I said, you're just on a hot streak. You know, sometimes we do perform better sometimes. Whether it be in school, whether it be in league, whether it be in sports, whether it be in working out. Maybe one day you're like, dude, I did like 10 times more, maybe not 10, but you get what I'm saying. I did more of my bench presses than I usually do, my deadlifts. Or, you know, I ran more miles today than I usually do. You know, I felt great. You know, sometimes you just have those days. And that pertains to league as well. Although you can't control the whole factor of the game, you can still control that you perform well sometimes. And you don't want to misinterpret that for actually improving and getting better, because that goes away, unfortunately. And then there's some days you just play like crap. There's some days you're just awful. Like no matter what elo you are, like everybody has those I just play like crap today type of games. The thing that you want to rely on is the fine line that you normally play. Sometimes you have ups, sometimes you have downs, but if you have that normal consistent play, that's the thing that you want to pay attention to. And so to that point, I started losing. And so I just thought, I'm playing like crap, which I was. And I'm also just being unlucky, which I was. So I was like, I'm just going to write it out. And again, those of you that monitor my climb know I write them out. I'll lose 10, 15 games in a row just to get over that. And then I win them all back and then proceed to climb. I'm weird. I know I should just stop, but I don't. I just continue to queue up and lose more games. But in that process, I'm still playing to play. I'm not taking these losses and just be like, I hope it's over. In my mindset, I'm just like, I'm waiting for it to be over. But while it's not over, I'm still going to try my best and still try to win. But if I lose, I lose. Whatever. It's going to happen. I'm just really unlucky right now. And as I said, that goes back to our quote of taking the positive out of it. Although my games seem just truly unwinnable, it's if I can win these hard games, which I've won some really hard games. Imagine the games that I'll win when it's not hard. And so with that, I've recently put on an account, and it's not like a fresh account or nothing like that. It's an old one. And I think I climbed from, I think it was silver to mid-plat with like an 80% win rate. Now, on one of my Smurfs, I can't win in gold. Right? And it's like, what? How the fuck? And I'm a Diamond 2 player, by the way. And I've climbed all the roles to Diamond. I'm doing it again this season. Check them out. Check me out. But you're talking to a player that's not... it shouldn't get stuck in gold. But that account got stuck in gold. Game after game after game. I mean, I'm literally losing with champs that I play. So that brings us back to, are there such things as cursed accounts? Now, it's not just this account. I've noticed that, I play a lot more than an average person because I coach the game. CoachBucket.com if you're interested. I'm just saying. I coach the game. So I play more games than an average human. Like an average human than an average player. So you might play like 5 a day, 6 a day. I play about 15, sometimes more, sometimes less. But you know, I could probably get to that point. Maybe 50 is over exaggerating. I probably play like 10 a day. More sometimes, less sometimes, but about 10 a day. 10 a day is like a solid benchmark for me. Now, with that amount of games, especially if I play at night, that is going to equal a lot more bad games than good games. Mathematically, statistically, right? I lied. Maybe it is about 15. I think it's about 20 on a good day. But I think I do play about 15. I have to look. I'm not really sure. Pretty sure it's 15. I play a lot. And so, if someone only plays 5 games a day, mathematically speaking, they're going to have less bad games than I do. Even if it's like, oh, they're truly unlucky, they can only have 5 unlucky bad games. Right? If it's a regular day and they might have 1 unlucky, 2 unlucky trolls or whatever. For someone who plays 15 or more, you're looking at a lot more potential, a lot more factors. Well, not factors, I'm sorry. Look, y'all mathematicians know the words I'm looking for, so help me out in the comments below. That's all I'm saying. But there is a higher percentage chance that I will have bad games because I play more games. So there is a mathematical equation to that. And on top of that, there was a study that Riot did, and I think it's 4? Or is it 12? It might be 12. But you lose more games at nighttime. I think he said 11. I think he said 11 or 12% more games at nighttime. Every player loses more. So if you calculate that with how many games I play, and remember, the way that I coach, I say 50% of your games are wins. They will give them to you. Usually everybody's at 50% win rate unless you're just really, really unlucky. They will give you 50% if you play the champs that you know. 10% is in your favor. So that means that you can potentially carry the game. You can change the outcome. You can win. 40% of your losers are going to be trolls. Maybe you just suck. Maybe, you know, people are AFK, people are raging. 40% of your games are that. So if we mathematically go back to the 5 guy, he, in theory, should obviously win more than he loses. Right? Now, math-wise, I don't know the number. I'm not going to do the math, but y'all know what I'm saying. Mathematicians, look it up. Look. But mathematically speaking, in that equation, is 60% of 5. What is 60% of 5? Let me see. Oh, look. I'm looking stuff. So it's 3. Mathematically speaking, they should only have 2 bad games. Whether it be trolls, whether they suck, whatever. 2 bad games. They should win 3. Right? So if Riot's gonna give me 2 wins for free, all I do is win 1 1, and then I could possibly have a 40% chance of having 2 rough ass games. But if we do 60% of 15, like I said, for my games, 9 games are going to be games that are given to me and I get to win myself. 6 games, 6 are going to be games that I can't win, either because I suck, either because someone's trolling or raging, etc., etc. So you can imagine, especially if all 6 of those comes at one time, you can imagine the lose streaks that I can be on. Now, on top of that, the Rioter said, I think it's 11 or 12. It could be 4, whatever. Add that or subtract that from the percent that you can actually win. If it is 4, you're winning 56% of your games. If it is 12, it's 48%. You have a 48% chance of winning, including the games that you actually can win yourself. Now, is it math or is it a curse? Now, that then tosses in another factor, right? Now, we went over the mathematics of it. Let's toss in another factor here. I did notice with these accounts, if I stopped playing them for an extended period of time and I come back, the curse is gone. And it's not me thinking about, is the curse gone? It's not me wondering. It's literally just going in and playing the game like normal, and I'm winning more. Why is that? Is there a loser's queue? Can your account be deemed cursed? Isn't that weird? Mathematics tell me why I should be losing, but those same mathematics don't apply when I play again. Later, like if I don't play a lot later, or if I don't play for an extended period of time and I come back, it doesn't apply. Now we can attribute that. We can attribute that to MMR. We can attribute that to matchmaking. If you guys don't know how matchmaking works, Riot tries to put you with 50-50. You have a 50% chance to win, you have a 50% chance to lose. Sometimes it's skewed a little bit to 51 or 49, depending on which side you are. Now, obviously, that's kind of skewed a little bit as well because players tend to play champs they don't know. If you get to Platinum playing Victor and you randomly decide to play Zoe, you're obviously skewing everybody's win chance. Which is why it's so crucial you play what you know. But why does it seem like it's only sometimes? When I come back, I don't have that. My theory is there is a backdoor island. Hear me out. There's actually something that was like this a long time ago. So there's a thing that Riot created a long time ago, or at least allegedly created, where if you were toxic, you'd be having like a toxic queue, and you'd only play with other toxic players. I don't know how true that is. I don't remember. But that was something that was like hinted or whatever. Like I said, it could be real. I don't remember. It was a long time ago, like back in season 3, season 2, whatever. Long time ago. But there is something that does happen, and I coached a rider a while ago, and they told me this. They're not a rider anymore. So, well, I mean, I wouldn't have said the name, period. It's not like riders give me information that I shouldn't know, by the way. It's just stats, that's all. Or it's just some random questions. Because I asked, I was like, why does it seem like some promo games are harder? Are they harder? They were like, no, they're not harder. And then I was like, but it feels like every single promo game is increasingly harder. They were like, nope, you're just unlucky. But what happens is if you go on a win streak, and you might actually notice this yourself, when you go on a win streak, you tend to get people that are on lose streaks. You tend to get people that are worse. This is Riot's way of trying to get everybody a fair chance to climb. They want you to climb. Whether they want you to grind the climb or not is a different story. I don't know what they're trying to do with that, but they do want you to win. They want you to climb. It's not fun, just win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. They want you to climb. So they will give you players that are better if you're having a really, really hard time. And I've actually noticed this when I've gone on my loss streaks, I literally would just straight up get carried. So it is a thing. When you lose too much, you will get good players. When you win too much, you will get bad players. Does that mean you won't win? No. It just means it's a little bit harder for you to win. So, that being said, if you lose so much, does Riot put you in a actual loser's queue? Does Riot put you in a queue of people that just tend to keep losing? And I thought about that because I would tend to get like worse and worse and worse and worse players. It would seem like every single game, people are just 0-5. And your brain does a thing where they always remember the bad way more than the good. But I try to keep a positive head about this to really understand it. And it did seem like almost every single game there were just people that are really, really bad. Like off roll, off champ, just bad period. I don't know, but they were really, really bad. And so when I stop playing though, and I come back, obviously if you don't play for a little bit, if you didn't know, your MMR kind of, it doesn't get reset, but if you think about it this way, if Me, Billy, and Mandy were at 1200 MMR, and I stopped playing, and I stay at 1200. Billy and Mandy have been playing for like a week or two. They should have shifted somewhere. Billy, whether he goes up or down, is a different story, but he shifted somewhere. Maybe it's 10 points, maybe it's 30, maybe it's 40. Mandy, the same thing. Maybe it's 50, maybe it's 60. So when I come back, I don't have those batches of Billy and Mandy anymore. I have Joe and Tarek, right? That's the thing. That's the thing that has me wondering, is there actually a queue where you are going to lose? Are you in a batch of players that is like a bad batch and you are going to lose? That is the closest I could come to why some accounts are just ridiculously hard to climb. Like, it's to the point where viewers would tell me, like, bro, what is going on in your games? Like, this is abnormal. This is abnormal. This is abnormal. So, the fact that I can not play and then come back and I'll win again, and it's like nothing happened, like I was never on lose streaks, it kind of goes to show that theory is correct. You could essentially get a bad batch of people, and your account will stay in that bad batch until you demote out of that MMR, or until you promote out of that MMR to where you don't get those batches anymore. Now, you might be thinking, well, what if you continue to lose? And then you get people that carry you and you get the win. And then you lose again because you're in a bad batch. Sometimes when you matchmake, depending on what time you're matchmaking, depending on how many people are there, the narrowness, I don't know if that's a word, the narrowness of your search starts to widen. And there's a game that actually tells you, like really tells you this. A lot of matchmaking queues don't tell you this, but For Honor is one of the games that will tell you. They have a strict moment, and if they're like, oh, we're not fighting you any games, you can widen it. And obviously look for people that are higher or lower. League of Legends does the same thing, whether they tell you or not. There's something where, because queues may take a little bit too long for you, they will either try to pull from higher or try to pull from lower. Now you could say, well, there's a theory. I think that they put a post out and they said, well, they pull from lower first and then they pull from higher. If you think about that, that means the lower guys continue to get pulling more from lower. And the lower guys continue to get pulled from lower. So what happens? What happens if the system widens and you are in a bad batch and they pull lower, meaning you get worse teammates? Right? And if it's not, if the lobby isn't filled, quote unquote, they'll pull from higher. And maybe those higher people are in the enemy team. That would sum up why accounts may feel cursed until you leave them alone for a while. Because you're already in your bad batch. And then they're also pulling from lower, which means you get worse teammates. I mean, they can pull higher and you get higher teammates too, don't get me wrong. But if you're already playing poorly, and then you get some people that are also playing poorly, even if there's one good guy, you're probably going to be... And remember, 40% of your games you're going to lose. So not only are you getting hard games, period, but then you're also getting like the games that are going to make you lose, like the people that picked off-roll, off-champs, they just suck. You're getting that too. So all of a sudden, instead of your 60% chance of winning, you're probably lower than that. And if you play at nighttime, you're lower than that. So that's why it might feel like you hit a huge hump. Because you either A, demote out of that batch eventually, and then you get a new batch by the time you get back to where you were, MMR-wise, matchmaking rating-wise. So if I'm like 1K matchmaking rating points, and my batch is horrible, and I demote to 800, and then I promote back to 1,000, obviously the people that were at that 1,000 aren't at that 1,000 anymore that I was playing with, because it's been like a week since I got back to where I was, which is why it seems like it's different when you climb back. So I'm putting it in. this is because I play so damn much, but I'm putting it into this theory of cursed accounts. Is there such thing as loser's queue? Yes. The reason I say that is because I do think you can be unlucky. Does that mean there's a specific queue that will toss you in and you're always going to lose? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it in a term of you're just very, 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 very unlucky. That's all I'm saying. Right? Because you have to remember, it's kind of a gamble if your teammates are going to actually do what they're supposed to do anyway. And if the game's pulling for people that are lower than you, you're already going to have another hard time. If you're playing poor yourself, you're going to have a hard time. So you're playing poor, and then the possibility of other 4 people playing poor is crucial as well. Especially if you're playing a hard carry role like AD carry, and you're playing poor, the only other carry on the team is going to be mid lane, realistically speaking. So, I mean, obviously top laners can carry and so can junglers, but it'll get to a point where it's like, if it goes too late and you're doing poor, realistically damage-wise, there's only going to be a mid laner. So, your chances of carrying are very, very slim compared to them. So, like I said, to that point, I definitely don't think there's a loser's queue, but I do think there's an unlucky, like you're just unlucky person. Like sometimes that you just are very, very unlucky. But also sometimes I think you can have a really bad batch. I mean that can actually be summed up as loser's queue now that I think about it. Having a bad batch of queues, you're in loser's queue. I guess that is something. Yeah, I guess loser's queue is something, but it's just not something that you just put in. I want to get that right. It's not something that you just, we're just going to put you in loser's queue, or, you're just in loser's queue. You can still get better in those games. You can still carry those games. I'll say loser's queue is just harder. It doesn't mean you're just going to lose. It's just harder to win those games, period. But you could just be very unlucky that day. Remember, if you play more games, the odds of you having really bad streaks are very, very high. If you play less games, the odds of you having bad streaks are very, very low. So remember, it is a mathematical thing to it. I don't think it is a loser's queue. I think it's just mathematically, you're unlucky, okay? It's just like rolling the dice, right? So it is a gamble when you queue. It is a gamble. And you can only affect some of your games, and some of your games are just being lucky. Some of your games are just unlucky. The games that you actually lose because you're not good enough to win those specific games, or maybe you threw later, you're dipping into your 10% that you can actually win. So is there loser's queue? Is there cursed account? Again, we're just going in circles at this point, aren't we? I think you're just mathematically unlucky. You could chalk that up to a loser's queue, but I don't believe that is a thing because you're unlucky. I will say though, you could be in a bad batch of MMR because when you stop playing and you come back, it's like a whole new world. It's different. It just feels different, and you win more games. At least I win more games. Maybe you don't win more games, but as a Smurf, I should not be losing in gold. All I'm gonna say, like I should not be stuck in gold on like Smurfing on a champ that I'm clearly not gold with, right? For those of you that are in your specific elo, so let's say you're a gold player and you climb faster or you climb easier on another gold account, that's not the same. Because you could just be playing poorly, and your mind might be tricking you into thinking that, oh, my other account is just way easier, so I climb better, even though you're kind of just gassing yourself up, making you feel better, so therefore you're climbing easier. Remember, climbing League of Legends is a mentality thing. A lot of it is mentality. If you feel like you're having an easier time climbing, you're probably going to have an easier time climbing. But as Smurfing, I'm realistically unable to win a game. It just doesn't make much sense, which is why it's a different story when someone's Smurfing than it is when it's just not a Smurf at all. But that's my theory. I think that there's just bad batches of MMR people. And if you continue to play, either you're going to promote out of that bad batch, which means you're probably a Smurf, or you're going to demote out of that bad batch. And by the time you get back to that level that you were on, that batch did the Billy and Mandy effect where it kind of like they separated. And you have a whole Rick and Morty group back where you were, and now they're just different people, and so it just feels better, which is why you might think that you climb faster on another account, because you don't have that MMR batch that you have, right? You don't have that batch of people, because realistically, not everybody's going to have the same MMR. The numbers fluctuate, and the way that matchmaking works also fluctuates. So I hope this helped answer the question. It was a very, very long video, but you guys know my podcast is pretty damn long. We're just chit-chatting it up. But yeah, I do think you could be very, very unlucky mathematically, but I do think the more you play, the chances of you going on a lose streak is higher. Like, way higher. Especially if you play at nighttime. So, what's the rule? Don't play at nighttime. And don't play a lot of games. Problem solved. If you really do feel like your account's like in a really bad spot, though, I do recommend just kind of leaving it alone for like a week or two. I promise you, when you get back, you'll be like, well, holy this is easy. Or you can be like me and just lose all your games until you start winning again. I mean, you can do that too. That also works. But yeah, that's just another podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Awesome time. This is fun. Again, if you guys are interested in coaching, CoachBlaker.com is where you want to go. If you're on the fence, if it would work for you, please go ahead and try out that sample session. It's definitely worth it. You're still going to get something out of it, even though it is a sample. And please, if you're not really someone who cares about climbing and reaching your goal, don't act like it to get one. Like I said, don't waste my time, waste your time that I could be using on other people and that you could be using doing something else. So thank you guys for watching. Peace, late. Have a good rest of your day or night. Thank you guys for approaching this like a coach.